In the face of adversity, there are moments when words alone can hold more power than the strongest weapons. Ibrahim Traore, a leader with a heart full of conviction and a mind that sees beyond the ordinary, stood before Donald Trump and delivered words that shook the very foundation of the room. But what he said, what was it that made even the most seasoned politicians pause and reconsider their beliefs? It wasn't just a simple speech, it was a wake-up call. A call for responsibility, a call for truth, a call for humanity to remember that the power to shape our future lies in the hands of those who have the courage to speak up, no matter the consequences. As Traore spoke, his voice echoed with strength, not born from empty promises, but from the raw experience of a man who had seen the world's harsh realities firsthand. He didn't use grandiose words to impress, instead he spoke from his heart, each sentence carefully chosen to strike at the core of truth. He began with a deep, unwavering tone, one that commanded attention. "The world is at a crossroads," he said, his eyes piercing through the crowd. "We stand at a point where history will either remember us as those who stood by in silence, or as those who chose to act. Our choices will echo through time, not as whispers but as loud, resounding calls for justice, for truth and for humanity." His gaze shifted, not just at Trump, but to every individual in the room. "You, sir, stand as a symbol of what happens when words are used to divide. But what I speak of today is unity. It's the strength of standing together, of understanding that leadership isn't about power. It's about serving the people. Leadership isn't about personal gain, but the collective good." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle into the hearts of those listening. There was no rush, no hurry. He knew what he had to say was not just to be heard, it was to be felt. "Look around you," he continued, his voice softening but not losing any of its intensity. "This is the future. This is the world that we will leave behind. We are not just passing through, we are laying the foundation for the next generation. What kind of world will we create for them? A world built on lies and division, or a world where compassion, understanding, and truth reign?" The room was silent. Traore had tapped into something deep, something universal. His words weren't just political, they were human. They were a reflection of the struggles, the sacrifices, and the hopes of every person who believed in a better tomorrow. "And you," Traore said, looking directly at Trump, "you are not above the people, you are not above the consequences of your actions. The future does not bend to those who seek to tear it apart. It bows to those who understand that to lead is to serve, and to serve is to listen, to empathize and to act with justice in your heart." He stepped back, but the impact of his words remained in the air, thick with emotion, heavy with truth. "So as I stand here today, I ask not just for answers, but for accountability. Not for promises, but for real, lasting change. It is time to heal, not by retreating into our corners, but by coming together stronger, united and determined to rise above." His words weren't just a challenge, they were a call to action. They were a reminder that the power of one voice can change the course of history, when that voice speaks not for its own gain, but for the good of all. And as the room sat in stunned silence, each individual left with something greater than they had come with. A sense of purpose, a spark of hope, and the realization that sometimes, the most humbling thing a leader can do is remind the world of its own potential for greatness. The world finds itself standing at a pivotal moment, a place where the weight of decisions made today will echo through the corridors of time. We are at a crossroads. Not just in terms of politics or global events, but in our very humanity. The path we choose will shape not only the present but will determine the legacy we leave for future generations. This is the reality we face. History will remember us not for the grand speeches we make, or the promises we utter, but for what we actually did in this moment of uncertainty. Now more than ever, we are witnessing a growing divide. A divide fueled by differences. Differences in belief, in values, in identity, in culture. And it's easy to be swept away in the noise of the moment, to let fear, anger, and division dictate our choices. It's tempting to retreat into our corners, to put up walls and close ourselves off from others, who may not share the same views, the same experiences, or the same hopes. But when we choose division, we are only serving to deepen the fractures in our societies, in our communities, and even within ourselves. The consequences of this path are clear: isolation, misunderstanding, and a world where we cannot find common ground to build a future on. But there is another way. There is another path that calls to us, a path that requires courage and vision. That path is the path of unity. Unity is not just a lofty ideal, not just a dream of harmony. It is a necessity for our survival and growth. Unity doesn't mean we all have to agree on everything, nor does it mean we must erase our differences. It means that despite our differences, we come together with the shared understanding that we are all in this world together. It is about recognizing our common humanity and choosing to work together, not as isolated individuals, but as part of a larger collective that strives for the greater good. The choice is ours, but it is not an easy one. It demands that we look beyond our immediate interests and desires. It asks us to think not just about ourselves, but about the people we share this world with, those we love and those we may never meet. It asks us to be brave enough to step outside of our comfort zones and embrace the unfamiliar, to see the value in the lives and struggles of others who may seem different from us. It requires us to challenge our own biases, our own prejudices, and to recognize that no one is truly free until all of us are free. It is all too easy to stand by in silence, to watch as the world crumbles around us, and convince ourselves that we cannot make a difference. It's safer to remain quiet, to go along with the status quo, and to ignore the injustices that unfold before our eyes. But silence is not a neutral position. In times of injustice, in times of division, silence is complicity. It is a choice to accept the world as it is, without questioning, without challenging. History will not remember those who stood by in silence. It will remember those who dared to speak up, to stand firm, and to act in the face of adversity. The real challenge is to take action. To not merely wish for a better world, but to build it. This doesn't mean grand gestures or heroic feats. It means the small everyday choices we make, to live with integrity, compassion, and understanding. It means choosing to engage with others, to listen without judgment, to offer help when it's needed, and to stand in solidarity with those who are suffering or marginalized. It means being willing to look beyond the headlines and the sound bites, to see the human faces behind the issues, and to understand that the problems we face as a society cannot be solved in isolation. The choice between standing by in silence or taking action is not a choice between comfort and discomfort. It is a choice between indifference and compassion, between passivity and engagement, between a future of division and one of unity. The path of unity will not always be easy. It will require patience, understanding, and a willingness to compromise. But it is the only path that will lead us to a future where we can truly thrive together. A future where we no longer see others as enemies or strangers, but as fellow travelers on this journey of life. So the question remains, will we stand divided, allowing the forces of hatred, fear, and ignorance to drive us further apart, or will we rise above, choosing to come together for something greater than ourselves, a shared vision of peace, justice, and mutual respect? The choice is in our hands, and it is a choice we must make, not just for ourselves, but for the generations that will follow. In the end, it is not just about the decisions we make today. It is about the kind of world we want to leave behind. The world will remember us, not for the easy decisions we made, but for the hard ones. And the greatest decision we can make, right now, is to choose unity over division, compassion over fear, and action over silence. Together, we can shape a future that reflects the best of what we are, if we have the courage to take the first step. Leadership has often been misunderstood as the accumulation of power, status, and control over others. Many have come to believe that being a leader means being at the top, calling the shots, and holding authority over those who follow. The common narrative portrays leaders as figures who stand apart from the people they lead, whose decisions shape the course of the masses, without necessarily considering the impact on individuals. But what if this traditional view of leadership is not only flawed, but deeply damaging to the very principles of what it means to lead with purpose? True leadership, the kind that truly changes the world, isn't about amassing power or securing one's position at the top. It is, in fact, about service. Leadership is not a privilege, it is a responsibility. It is not about elevating oneself above others, it is about lifting others up. It's about recognizing that leadership is not a crown you wear for personal glory, but a mantle you bear for the greater good of the people you serve. To be a true leader is to understand that power is not something you take, but something you give, something that is meant to empower those around you. At the heart of this type of leadership is humility. Humility is the foundation of great leadership, because it allows a leader to step outside of their ego and connect with the people they serve on a human level. A leader who is humble does not see themselves as superior to others, but as part of a collective. They recognize that they are not above the struggles, the dreams, or the hopes of those they lead. In humility there is an openness to learning, growing, and adapting. It is through humility that a leader gains the respect and trust of their people, not through intimidation or fear, but through compassion, understanding, and the willingness to be vulnerable. Humility means admitting when you don't know all the answers and being courageous enough to seek wisdom from others, regardless of their position in society or their role within the organization. Listening is another pillar of true leadership. A leader who does not listen is no leader at all. Listening is not a passive act. It is an active commitment to understanding the needs, concerns, and desires of those you lead. It means taking the time to hear their voices, to engage with their ideas, and to acknowledge their experiences. Leadership that is rooted in listening understands that the best ideas often come from the ground up, not from the top down. It is a leader's job to create an environment where every voice is heard and valued, where people are encouraged to speak their truth without fear of judgment. Listening requires patience, empathy, and the ability to set aside one's own assumptions in favor of truly understanding the perspectives of others. When a leader listens, they not only gain insights into the challenges their people face, but also create a sense of trust and connection that empowers others to take ownership of the collective journey. Moreover, leadership that serves the people is leadership that prioritizes the needs of others above personal ambition or gain. It's not about asking what's in it for me, but rather, how can I help? How can I serve? How can I make the lives of others better? True leaders ask these questions with sincerity and act on the answers. They understand that their role is not to accumulate accolades or recognition, but to work toward the well-being and growth of those they are leading. This kind of leadership shifts the focus from self-interest to the greater good, and it motivates others to follow because they know that the leader's actions are guided by a genuine desire to serve and empower. A leader who serves puts others first. This does not mean neglecting one's own needs or values, but rather recognizing that leadership is most powerful when it is rooted in the well-being of the community or organization. When a leader prioritizes others, they create a culture of mutual respect and collaboration, where everyone feels valued and encouraged to contribute their best. Such leadership fosters loyalty, trust, and a sense of shared purpose that binds people together in ways that authoritarian leadership never can. It's easy to mistake power for leadership, but they are not synonymous. Power can be taken, but true leadership must be earned. Power often comes with the desire to control, whereas leadership is about inspiring others to take action for the common good. Power may command respect, but leadership wins hearts and minds. True leaders inspire, not by imposing their will, but by empowering others to reach their potential, by showing them the way, and by nurturing a collective vision that everyone can believe in and work toward. In this world of shifting dynamics, where inequality and division often seem to rule, the need for leaders who lead through service is more crucial than ever. We need leaders who understand that their strength comes not from their ability to dominate, but from their capacity to serve with integrity and empathy. Leaders who understand that to lead is to walk beside others, not above them. It is about fostering relationships, building trust, and working together to create a future where everyone can thrive. So as we look to the future, we must ask ourselves, what kind of leaders we truly need? Do we need those who seek power for power's sake? Or do we need those who will serve with humility, listen with care, and act with the intention of lifting others? The answer is clear. The true measure of leadership is not in what you gain, but in what you give, and in giving you inspire others to do the same. We are living in a moment of profound significance, and yet it is all too easy to forget the magnitude of the path we are on. Every decision we make today, every action we take, or fail to take, shapes the world that will exist long after we are gone. The choices we make are not isolated to our time. They ripple outward, extending far into the future. We are not simply passing through this life. We are building something, brick by brick, moment by moment, for the generations that will follow us. And in that act of building, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world are we creating? What will we leave behind? In a world often defined by uncertainty and rapid change, it's easy to lose sight of this responsibility. We become caught up in the daily grind, consumed with our own immediate concerns and desires, without fully contemplating the legacy we are crafting. But it's in these moments that we must pause and reflect on the larger picture. The truth is that the world we leave behind will not just be the world we lived in, it will be the world our children, our grandchildren, and their children will inherit. The future they inherit will be determined by what we do now. The direction we set today will guide them, for better or worse. The question then becomes, what kind of world do we want to leave behind? One shaped by fear and division, or one founded on compassion and understanding? Fear and division have a long history in human society. Throughout history, fear has been used as a tool to control and manipulate, to sow discord among us. When fear takes root, it spreads quickly, dividing families, communities, and nations. It makes us distrustful of one another, suspicious of different ideas and cultures, and paralyzes us with uncertainty. In a world driven by fear, progress is stunted, empathy is diminished, and isolation becomes the norm. It is a world where differences are not celebrated, but feared, where compassion is replaced by anger and resentment. But fear is not the only path we can take. We also have the power to choose a different future, a future built on compassion, understanding, and connection. Compassion is the force that binds us together as human beings. It allows us to see past our differences, and understand that at our core, we share the same hopes, dreams, and struggles. Compassion asks us to recognize the humanity in others, to step outside our own experiences, and to act with kindness and empathy. In a world driven by compassion, we see each other not as enemies or strangers, but as brothers and sisters, each deserving of respect, dignity, and love. Understanding is the cornerstone of compassion. To understand another person is to see the world through their eyes, to listen without judgment, and to approach differences with an open heart. It's easy to dismiss someone with opposing views, or unfamiliar experiences as other or wrong. But understanding teaches us that everyone's journey is shaped by different circumstances, and that no one person's experience is more valid than another's. It encourages dialogue, cooperation, and mutual respect. It allows us to find common ground, even in our differences. So the question remains, which world will we choose to leave behind? A world of fear and division, where we build walls between us, or a world of compassion and understanding, where we build bridges? It's not an easy question to answer, but it is a question we must face, because the decisions we make today will dictate what the future looks like. We must think beyond our own lifetimes, beyond our own immediate gratification, and ask ourselves what kind of world we want to create for the generations that come after us. Do we want them to inherit a world filled with anger, mistrust, and isolation? Or do we want them to inherit a world where empathy, love, and collaboration are the driving forces of society? It is easy to feel powerless in the face of such large questions. But the truth is that the future is shaped by the small, everyday choices we make. Every time we choose kindness over cruelty, understanding over judgment, and cooperation over conflict, we are contributing to the world we leave behind. It's not about making grand gestures, it's about making a commitment to live with integrity, to stand up for justice, and to act with compassion. It's about teaching the next generation the value of empathy, the importance of unity, and the power of love. As we look to the future, we must recognize that the world we build will not be built by a few powerful individuals alone. It will be built by all of us, through the choices we make, the values we uphold, and the actions we take. Each of us has a role to play in shaping the world we want to leave behind. The legacy we create will be a reflection of the values we hold dear, the compassion we extend, the understanding we share, and the love we offer. We have the power to shape the future, to create a world where kindness and connection triumph over fear and division. So as we move forward, let us remember that we are not simply passing through life. We are building the future, and in that act of building, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world will we leave behind? A world of fear and division, or one of compassion and understanding? The answer to that question lies in the choices we make today. Let us choose wisely, for the world we build will be the world that our children inherit. In every corner of our world, from local communities to the highest offices of power, the actions of individuals, especially those in positions of leadership, have far-reaching consequences. Yet too often, we see a disconnect between those in power and the impact of their decisions. Leaders can make choices that affect the lives of millions, but it is too easy for them to evade responsibility when things go wrong. This is a dangerous trend, because leadership comes with a profound duty. The truth is clear: no one, no matter their position or title, is above the people. No one is exempt from the consequences of their actions. The decisions we make today, the actions we take or neglect to take, ripple outward and shape the future in ways we cannot always predict. The idea that certain individuals or groups are above reproach, immune to the repercussions of their behavior, has allowed a culture of irresponsibility to flourish in many parts of the world. This idea has permeated not only political systems but also corporate boards, institutions, and even within our own communities. When those in power believe they can act without consequence, They lose sight of their responsibility to the people they are supposed to serve. This detachment breeds injustice, inequality, and a breakdown in trust. It creates a system where the most vulnerable bear the brunt of decisions made by those who are insulated from the real-world effects of their choices. It fosters an environment where accountability becomes a rare commodity, and those who should be held responsible are allowed to slip through the cracks. The message that no one is above the people is a reminder that leadership is not a free pass to act without regard for others. Power should not be a shield that protects individuals from accountability. It should be a tool to serve, uplift, and protect those who need it most. Every leader must remember that they are not an island, isolated from the consequences of their actions. Their power is a privilege, not an entitlement, and it carries with it the heavy weight of responsibility. When they make decisions, they must understand that those decisions affect real lives, real people, and entire communities. A leader's ability to influence change comes with the obligation to ensure that their influence is used for the common good, not for personal gain or to further their own interests. The future does not belong to those who tear it apart, those who sow division, perpetuate hate, or allow injustice to thrive. The future belongs to those who choose to build, to those who work to create a better world for all, not just for the few. This future is not built by those who hoard power and wealth, but by those who use their resources to uplift others, who act with integrity, and who understand that the long-term well-being of society depends on the choices we make today. A future built on fear, greed, and corruption is one destined for collapse, but a future built on accountability, empathy, and a commitment to justice is one that can endure. Accountability is the cornerstone of progress. It is the mechanism by which we ensure that power is not abused, that promises are kept, and that those who are entrusted with leadership positions act in the best interest of the people. It is what separates those who truly lead from those who merely occupy a position of power. Leaders must be willing to face the consequences of their actions, no matter how difficult or uncomfortable that may be. If they make a mistake, they must own it, learn from it, and work to correct it. If they fail to live up to their promises, they must be held accountable and made to answer for their failures. Leadership without accountability leads to stagnation, corruption, and disillusionment. When leaders refuse to be held accountable, they not only betray the trust of those they lead, but also undermine the very foundation of leadership itself. We are all accountable for the world we leave behind. Whether we are in positions of power or not, we all have a role to play in shaping the future. The actions of individuals, no matter how small they may seem, add up to create the larger picture. The way we treat others, the choices we make in our personal lives, and the stand we take on issues of justice and fairness, all contribute to the society we are building. When we fail to hold ourselves accountable for our own actions, we contribute to a culture of negligence and indifference. But when we take responsibility for our choices, when we commit to acting with integrity and honor, we create a world where accountability is the standard, not the exception. The future belongs to those who build, to those who face the challenges of the present with courage and resolve, and who understand that their actions matter. It belongs to those who are willing to stand up and say, "I am responsible. I will do what is right, even when it is difficult." In this world, accountability is not a burden, it is a privilege. It is the opportunity to make a real difference, to shape the world in a way that reflects our highest values. And the beauty of this is that accountability is not just for leaders, it is for all of us. We are all part of the story, and our collective actions will determine the world we leave behind. We must always remember that no one is above the consequences of their actions. Leadership in its truest form means being accountable not just to the present but to the future. If we are to build a world of fairness, justice, and equality, then accountability must be at the heart of everything we do. It is the only way forward, and it is the only way to create a future worth fighting for. In every moment of history, there has been a pivotal voice that spoke out against injustice, against complacency, or against the prevailing norms of the time. It's easy to think that change is something that only happens in grand gestures or from powerful institutions. But the truth is that change begins with a single voice. A voice that rises above the noise and speaks with clarity, conviction, and purpose. One voice can indeed change the course of history, but that voice must be one that speaks not for personal gain or fame, but for truth, for justice, and for the collective good. This is where the true power of a single voice lies, not in the volume of its sound, but in the strength of its message, and the courage it takes to raise it. When we look back at history, We see countless examples of individuals who, through their words and actions, sparked movements that reshaped societies, overturned oppressive regimes, and brought about lasting change. From Mahatma Gandhi's call for nonviolent resistance, to Rosa Parks' quiet defiance on a bus in Montgomery, to Malala Yousafzai's advocacy for girls' education. These were not the actions of individuals seeking personal glory, but of people whose voices became a conduit for the hopes, struggles, and dreams of millions. They understood that their voice, no matter how small it seemed in the face of overwhelming opposition, had the potential to ignite something much larger, a movement, a shift in societal values, and a change in the course of history. But in order for a voice to truly change history, it must speak for something greater than the individual. It must speak for truth, for justice, and for the good of all. Personal gain, when it becomes the driving force behind our words, can distort the message and divert attention away from the greater cause. A voice that seeks only personal gain often becomes self-serving, driven by ego rather than a commitment to the collective well-being. When we speak only for ourselves, we risk losing sight of the bigger picture, and our words become hollow, disconnected from the needs of the broader community. True power lies in speaking, not just for oneself, but for those who cannot speak for themselves, those whose voices have been silenced by oppression, by fear, or by circumstance. It lies in standing up for those who are marginalized, disenfranchised, or forgotten by society. One voice that speaks for the truth of these experiences has the potential to shift paradigms, to break through the walls of ignorance and indifference, and to bring to light the injustices that have too long been ignored. When a voice rises with this purpose, it resonates beyond the individual, connecting with others who share the same desire for a better world, and creating a collective force for change. However, the courage to speak up does not come easily. It requires vulnerability and the willingness to face opposition. The truth is that when you speak for what is right, you will often find yourself standing alone, at least initially. You will face criticism, ridicule, and perhaps even hostility from those who benefit from the status quo, or who fear the disruption of change. But this is precisely why one voice is so powerful. It has the capacity to challenge the norms, to question the accepted, and to push for a future that is more just, more compassionate, and more equitable. It is the courage to be that voice, to speak when others remain silent, that makes history. The power of one voice lies in its ability to inspire others to find their own. When one person speaks up for justice, others are emboldened to do the same. The impact of a single voice multiplies exponentially when it is met with the voices of others who share the same vision, the same hopes, and the same commitment to a better future. One voice can be the spark, but it is the chorus of voices that brings about true change. History is not shaped by the actions of a solitary individual. It is shaped by the collective actions of many, all united by a common purpose. A single voice may be the beginning, but it is the unity of many voices, each speaking for truth, justice, and the collective good, that creates the momentum needed to alter the course of history. In our world today, where social, political, and environmental challenges seem overwhelming, it can be easy to feel like one voice doesn't matter. But it is precisely in these times of difficulty that the power of one voice becomes even more crucial. It is easy to remain silent when the issues at hand seem too large to tackle. But silence is the enemy of progress. If each of us waits for someone else to speak up, or if we stay silent because we fear the consequences, then we are perpetuating the very systems that need to change. But when we choose to speak, when we find the courage to raise our voices for what is right, we plant the seeds of change. Every voice that speaks out against injustice, every voice that advocates for the oppressed, every voice that calls for truth and fairness, adds its weight to the scale of history. The power of one voice is not just about the words we speak. It is about the courage to speak them. It is about the willingness to stand for something greater than ourselves, to take risks for the betterment of others, and to believe that, even in the face of adversity, our voices have the power to create real lasting change. When we speak for truth, for justice, and for the good of all, we are not just participating in history, we are helping to write it. So do not underestimate the power of your voice. Your words matter, your courage matters, and in the end it is your voice, and the voices of countless others, who rise in unison, that will shape the world we leave behind. In a world full of rhetoric, grand speeches, and promises that often go unfulfilled, it is easy to become disillusioned with the idea of change. We hear leaders, activists, and organizations declare their intentions to create a better world. Yet far too often the promises fade into nothingness, leaving behind only disappointment and broken hopes. The truth is that what we need today is not more empty words or superficial pledges. We need real, tangible change, change that lasts, change that transforms lives, and change that addresses the root causes of the problems we face, not just the symptoms. For too long we have been told that the solutions to our most pressing challenges lie just around the corner, that change is always just one election, one policy, or one breakthrough away. But time and again we find ourselves in the same cycle, waiting for something to happen only to be left with more of the same. This constant cycle of empty promises is not only frustrating, but it has also led to a sense of paralysis, where we feel powerless in the face of global issues like inequality, poverty, climate change, and political division. We have been told that change will come, but we have yet to see the transformation that truly addresses these urgent concerns. What we need more than ever is action. True change is not created by words alone. It is created by people who are willing to take responsibility for the world around them, who are willing to step up and do the hard work that is necessary to make a real difference. Words without action are hollow. They may sound good in the moment, but they lack substance. True progress is measured not by the promises made, but by the actions taken, by the results achieved, and by the impact on the lives of those who need it most. If we want to create a world that reflects our highest values, we must be willing to move beyond the talk and start putting in the work. This call for real change is not just a call for action from our leaders. It is a call to each and every one of us. The change we seek will not come from a single person, group, or nation. It will come from all of us, working together toward a common goal. Change begins at the individual level, and it is only when people unite, recognizing that they are part of a shared struggle, that real transformation can occur. We must look beyond national borders, political ideologies, and cultural differences, and see ourselves for what we truly are, one global community, bound together by our shared humanity. To rise above the fear and division that have so often held us back, we must be willing to recognize our shared interests and common dreams. The fear that divides us is often fueled by ignorance, mistrust, and a lack of understanding. It is a fear that tells us we must protect what is ours at all costs, that we must look out for ourselves and ignore the struggles of others. This fear creates division, and division makes it impossible for us to come together and work toward the common good. But in the face of fear, we must be bold. We must have the courage to rise above the differences that separate us and come together as people, not as nations, races, or ideologies. We are all part of the same global community, facing many of the same challenges, and it is only by recognizing our shared responsibility that we can begin to create the change we need. True progress will never come from division. It will only come when we stand united, when we join hands and work together for something greater than ourselves. The change we seek requires more than just our voices. It requires our collective action. Whether it is addressing climate change, fighting inequality, advocating for human rights, or building a more just and peaceful world, real change demands that we take action. It requires that we no longer sit on the sidelines, waiting for someone else to fix the problems. It requires that we step up, take responsibility, and make a difference in whatever way we can. No action is too small. No contribution too insignificant. Every effort, no matter how seemingly minor, adds up to something greater than the sum of its parts. This is not a time for complacency, nor is it a time for waiting. The future is in our hands, and if we want to see a world that reflects our ideals, one that is just, compassionate, and sustainable, we must be willing to act now. The longer we wait, the harder it will be to reverse the damage done, to heal the divisions, and to address the challenges we face. But if we act together, if we move beyond the paralysis of fear and division, we can create a future that reflects the best of who we are. The time for change is now, and it is up to each of us to play our part. We must be willing to take risks, to challenge the status quo, and to push for the transformation that is needed. We cannot afford to wait for someone else to make it happen. We are all responsible for the world we live in, and we all have the power to make a difference. The question is not whether we can create change. It is whether we are willing to step forward and do what it takes to make that change a reality. So let us come together, not just as nations but as people. Let us rise above the fear and division that have held us back for so long. Let us stop waiting for change to come to us, and start making it happen ourselves. This is our moment, our opportunity, and our responsibility. Together we can create the future we want to see. It is time for real, lasting change. And it begins with us.